The stars looked different through the sensor screens of the Galactic Council ship Eternal Watch. Commander Velthar studied the readings with growing confusion. His blue-scaled fingers moved across the control panel as he tried to make sense of what his instruments were telling him. "This cannot be right," he muttered in his native tongue. The energy readings from the third planet's orbit showed something massive, something that should not exist in this forgotten corner of space. Scout Captain Nixandra floated beside him, her tentacles wrapped around a datapad. "Commander, I have run the scans 5 times. The readings are correct. There is a structure in orbit around the third planet that measures over 15 kilometers in length." Velthar's eyes narrowed. He had been exploring unknown systems for the Galactic Council for over 30 years. He knew what primitive worlds looked like. According to their records, this system contained a species called humans who had barely learned to split atoms. They were supposed to be hundreds of years away from building anything that could survive in space. "Show me the historical data again," Velthar ordered. The main screen filled with information about the Sol system. The last official survey had been conducted 200 years ago by a council exploration team. The report described humans as aggressive but technologically backward. They used chemical rockets to reach their own moon. Their most advanced weapons used nuclear fission. The council had marked them as a species to check on again in a few hundred years. "Perhaps our sensors are picking up an asteroid," suggested Communications Officer Theknar from his station. "The humans might have moved one into orbit for mining." Nixandra's tentacles curled in disagreement. "No asteroid produces this energy. Signature. This reads like an artificial construct with active power systems. The energy output is enormous." Velthar felt a cold sensation in his stomach. If the humans had somehow developed advanced technology, it could change everything. The Galactic Council's expansion plans for this sector assumed Earth would eventually become another client world. Primitive species always did. "Send a priority message to Fleet Admiral Kethmore," Velthar decided. "Tell him we need a proper diplomatic contact fleet, and tell him the humans may not be as primitive as we thought." 3 days later, Admiral Kethmore arrived with 12 ships of the 3rd Diplomatic Fleet. His flagship, the Council's Will, was a massive vessel designed to impress newly contacted species. The Admiral himself was a veteran of first contact situations. He had brought 47 primitive worlds into the Council's protection over his long career. Kethmore studied the same readings that had puzzled Velthar. The massive construct in Earth's orbit was clearly artificial. Its energy signature was unlike anything in Council databases, but the Admiral had seen stranger things. "Commander Velthar, you worry too much," Kethmore said during their meeting. "Yes? The humans have built something large, but size does not equal advancement. Perhaps they have learned to hollow out asteroids. Perhaps they have built a crude space station. We will approach, make contact, and bring them into the Council as planned." Velthar wanted to argue, but Admiral Kethmore had already made his decision. The fleet would approach Earth using standard first contact procedures. They would make peaceful contact, demonstrate Council technology, and invite the humans to join galactic civilization under Council guidance. It had worked thousands of times before. The 12 Council ships moved toward Earth in formation. Their hulls gleamed with advanced metals. Their weapons were powered down but ready. Their shields hummed with energy that could stop asteroid impacts. To any primitive species, they would look like the ships of gods. As they approached, the massive construct became clearer on their sensors. It was not a space station. It was a ship. The largest ship any of them had ever seen. Its hull was dark gray metal that seemed to absorb sensor beams. Strange projections and structures covered its surface. Most disturbing of all, it was clearly built for war. "Admiral," reported sensor specialist Kliktar, "the construct is definitely a warship. I count hundreds of weapon ports along its hull. The armor plating is at least 3 meters thick. This is not a peaceful vessel." Admiral Kethmore frowned. The humans had built a warship larger than anything in the Council fleet, but size did not equal capability. Their own ships had technology refined over thousands of years. Whatever weapons the humans had mounted on their giant ship, they could not compare to Council plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Open communication channels, the Admiral ordered. Use standard first contact frequencies. Let us see what these humans have to say for themselves. On board the human warship, Captain Dae-hyun sat in his command chair watching the alien fleet approach. The bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath was a study in calm efficiency. His crew moved with practiced precision, monitoring dozens of different systems. 12 ships in standard diplomatic formation, reported Tactical Officer Jin Woo. Their weapons are powered down, but their shields are active. Classic first contact approach. Dae-hyun nodded. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Ever since Earth's deep space monitoring stations had first detected alien communications, the human government had been planning. They knew this day would come. What do our intelligence files tell us about their fleet composition? Dae-hyun asked. Intelligence Director Hye-won consulted her displays. 1 heavy cruiser, 3 light cruisers, 8 escort frigates. Standard. Galactic Council diplomatic formation based on observed patterns. The heavy cruiser matches the design of vessels we have identified as Zephyrian Empire construction. Communications Officer Boram turned from her station. Captain, we are receiving transmissions on multiple frequencies, mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic scientific constants, standard first contact protocol. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. The aliens were following exactly the procedures humanity had observed them using with other newly contacted species. They expected to find primitive humans who might barely understand their signals. Boram, respond using quantum communications. Use perfect galactic standard language. Tell them they have entered Terran defensive space, and ask them to state their intentions. Boram's fingers moved across her controls. The message was transmitted instantly across space using quantum entanglement technology. On the alien ships, communication officers suddenly found their equipment receiving signals on frequencies they had not expected primitives to know existed. Admiral Kethmore stared at the message on his screen. It was written in perfect galactic standard, the common language used by all council species. The humans should not have known this language existed, much less mastered it. The message was also transmitted using quantum communication technology that most council worlds had only recently adopted. How do they know our language? Whispered Communications Officer Teknar. The Admiral had no answer. In all his years of first contact, primitive species had never been able to communicate so clearly and immediately. They usually required weeks of mathematical exchanges before basic concepts could be shared. Send a reply, Kethmore decided. Tell them we are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome Earth into the galactic community. Request permission to send a diplomatic party to meet with their planetary leadership. The response came back within minutes. The human captain politely declined to allow landing. Parties. He stated that he had full authority to speak for humanity in matters of first contact. He suggested that all negotiations take place in space, for everyone's safety. The phrase bothered Admiral Kethmore. For everyone's safety. It sounded almost like a threat, but surely these humans, no matter how large their ship, could not threaten a council fleet. On the Titan's Wrath, Captain Dae-hyun was receiving constant updates from his officers. Chief Science Officer Min-ji had been scanning the alien vessels, with sensors far more advanced than anything the council possessed. Their technology is about what we expected, Min-ji reported. Fusion reactors for power, plasma weapons, kinetic barriers for defense, roughly equivalent to our technology from 30 years ago. Engineering Chief Soo-jin nodded from her station. Their ships show signs of modular construction, probably, built in orbital shipyards with limited manufacturing capability. Our intelligence estimates were correct. Dae-hyun studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet. Each ship was highlighted with detailed information about its capabilities. The humans had been watching and learning about council technology for decades. They knew exactly what they were facing. Sir, Jin Woo called out, the alien ships are changing formation. They are spreading out and taking positions around us. On the council flagship, Admiral Kethmore was growing frustrated. The humans were not following standard first contact procedures. They refused to allow diplomatic missions. They showed no signs of awe at Council technology. Most importantly, they showed no signs of submission. Perhaps we need to remind them who they are dealing with, the Admiral said to his senior staff. Power up weapons and shields. Move into intimidation formation. Show them the consequences of refusing Council authority. It was a standard tactic. When primitive species prove stubborn, a show of force usually convinced them to be more reasonable. The sight of advanced weapons and shields had brought countless worlds into line. The rescue operation took 6 hours. During that time, Admiral Kethmore watched in growing amazement as the human ship provided assistance that his own vessels could not match. Their sensors could locate individual escape pods from impossible distances. Their medical scans could determine the health of survivors through the pod walls. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to know exactly how Council life support systems worked. Admiral, reported Chief Medical Officer Zelthar, the humans have transmitted detailed medical data about our rescued crew members. They know our biology. They know our medical needs. This information should have taken years of study to acquire. Kethmore felt another chill. How long had the humans been watching them? How much did they know about Council technology and biology? His tactical mind began considering the implications. If humanity had been observing Council activities for years, they might know about military deployments, technological capabilities, even political situations. On the bridge of the Titan's Wrath, Captain Dae-hyun was conducting his own analysis. Intelligence Director Hai-wan had been monitoring all communications from the alien fleet. Their language translation systems had been breaking down Council military codes in real time. Captain, Hai-wan reported, the alien commander is requesting emergency communications with his superiors. He is describing our capabilities as beyond current understanding and recommending immediate defensive preparations. Captain Dae-hyun nodded. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The aliens now understood that humanity was not a primitive species to be intimidated, but he needed to establish the terms of future contact before fear led to poor decisions. Boram, open a direct channel to the alien commander. I want to speak with him personally. Admiral Kethmore was surprised when his communications officer reported an incoming direct transmission from the human ship. Most species required formal protocols for leader-to-leader communications. The humans seemed to operate with unusual directness. The face that appeared on his screen was clearly human. Captain Dae-hyun had dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw. He wore a simple uniform with minimal decoration, but there was something in his bearing that spoke of absolute confidence and authority. Admiral Kethmore of the Galactic Council 3rd Diplomatic Fleet, Dae-hyun said, using perfect pronunciation of the alien's name and titles. I am Captain Dae-hyun of the United Earth Navy. I believe we need to discuss the situation. The Admiral was struck by several things at once. The human knew his name and rank, though they had never been transmitted. The human's voice carried the calm authority of someone accustomed to command. Most importantly, the human seemed completely unimpressed by Council technology or military power. Captain Dae-hyun, Kethmore replied carefully, I must admit that our initial assessment of human capabilities was incorrect. Your vessel and technology are far more advanced than our records indicated. Dae-hyun smiled slightly. Admiral, your records were based on information that is 50 years out of date. Humanity has made significant advances since your last visit to this system. The statement hit Kethmore like a shock. The humans knew about previous Council surveys. They knew they had been observed and evaluated. Yet they had somehow managed to develop advanced technology without any Council species detecting it. Captain, I must ask directly, how long has humanity been aware of the Galactic Council's existence? We first detected Council communications approximately 53 years ago, Dae-hyun replied matter-of-factly. Since then, we have been studying your technology, your languages, and your political structures. We wanted to be prepared when formal contact eventually occurred. The admission sent waves of shock through the Council bridge crew. The humans had been studying them for over 50 years. They had learned Council languages, analyzed Council technology, and prepared for this moment while remaining completely hidden. This is unprecedented, whispered Tactical Officer Nevron. No species has ever achieved such intelligence-gathering capabilities before formal contact. Admiral Kethmore was beginning to understand the scope of what he was facing. Humans had not simply developed advanced weapons. They had developed an entire intelligence network capable of studying the Council without being detected. They knew Council capabilities, while the Council knew almost nothing about them. "Captain Dae-hyun," the Admiral said, "I believe this situation requires discussions at the highest levels of both our governments. Would you be willing to participate in formal diplomatic negotiations?" "Of course," Dae-hyun replied. "However, I should clarify something about human government structure. Unlike Council species, humanity does not have a single planetary leadership. We have multiple nation-states with different governments. But in matters of first contact and external defense, I have been granted full authority to speak for all human governments." This was another surprise. Most species the Council encountered had single-world governments by the time they developed spaceflight. The idea of multiple governments on one world was unusual. The idea that they could coordinate effectively enough to grant one person authority over all of them was even more unusual. "What authority do you represent?" Kethmore asked. "I am an officer of the United Earth Navy, which handles all human military operations beyond our solar system. I also hold diplomatic credentials from the Terran Defense Council, which coordinates all human governments in matters of external contact. For the purposes of these negotiations, I can speak for all of humanity." The Admiral was impressed despite himself. The humans had created government structures specifically designed to handle contact with alien species. They had prepared for this moment in ways that went far beyond just building advanced weapons. Chief Science Officer Min-ji approached Captain Dae-hyun's chair on the bridge of the Titan's Wrath. She carried a data pad with detailed analysis of the alien fleet. "Captain," she said quietly, "we have completed our full sensor sweep of their vessels. Their technology is primitive compared to our current capabilities, but it is not primitive compared to early Council records. They have been advancing, just much more slowly than we have." Dae-hyun nodded. "What is your assessment of their intentions?" "They appear to be following standard Council first contact procedures. Based on our observations of their previous contacts with primitive species, they expect to establish a protectorate relationship. They provide technology and protection in exchange for resources and political control." "And their reaction to our demonstration?" Min-ji smiled. "They are terrified. Their communications indicate they have never encountered a species with capabilities that exceed their own. They are requesting emergency reinforcements and recommending defensive preparations throughout Council space." Captain Dae-hyun considered this information. Fear could lead to poor decisions. If the Council felt threatened enough, they might attempt a preemptive attack with larger forces. It was time to provide some reassurance while establishing clear boundaries. "Admiral Kethmore," Dae-hyun said, continuing their conversation, "I want to assure you that humanity has no hostile intentions toward the Galactic Council. We are interested in peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial relationships." The Bricio Admiral felt some relief at these words. "That is good to hear, Captain. The Council has always sought to welcome new species into the galactic community. However," Dae-hyun continued, "humanity will not accept a subordinate relationship. We are prepared to engage with the Council as equals, not as a client species." This statement caused another shock on the Council bridge. In over 1,000 years of expansion, no newly contacted species had ever demanded equal status with the Council. The concept was almost unthinkable. "Captain," Admiral Kethmore said carefully, "the Council has established procedures for integrating new species. There are protocols that must be followed, standards that must be met." "Admiral, I believe you misunderstand the situation. Humanity is not seeking to be integrated into existing Council structures. We are proposing the establishment of new relationships between the Council and an independent human government." The implications were staggering. The humans were not asking to join the Council. They were demanding recognition as an independent power capable of dealing with the Council on equal terms. Engineering Chief Soo-jin monitored the conversation from her station while keeping watch on the alien ships. Their vessels were maintaining defensive positions, but their energy signatures showed growing tension. Some ships were slowly charging additional weapon systems. "Captain," she said quietly, "several alien ships are powering up secondary weapons. They may be preparing for a more serious confrontation." Tactical Officer Jin Woo confirmed the observation. "Sir, 3 of their light cruisers are charging their main plasma cannons. They may be testing our response to increased threat levels." "Captain," Dae-hyun considered the situation. The aliens were following predictable patterns again. When diplomacy failed to achieve their objectives, they escalated to shows of force. When shows of force failed, they escalated to actual threats. It was time to demonstrate that this approach would not work with humanity. "Jinwoo, activate defensive screens around their entire fleet. Minimum power, just enough to interfere with their weapon systems. Make sure they can detect what we are doing." The emergency session of the Galactic Council High Command convened within hours of Admiral Kethmore's first report. Representatives from 12 major species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, the Council's capital world. The Chamber had seen many crisis meetings over the centuries, but none quite like this. High Counselor Zarthek, a tall figure from the ancient ethereal race, called the session to order. His pale blue skin seemed to glow in the chamber's soft lighting as he reviewed the initial reports from the 3rd Diplomatic Fleet. "Members of the High Council," Zarthek began, "we face an unprecedented situation. A species we classified as primitive has demonstrated military capabilities that exceed our own. Admiral Kethmore's reports describe weapons and technology that our science divisions cannot explain." Military advisor Korthvik, a heavily built warrior from the Krogan territories, slammed his fist on the table. "This is impossible. No species develops such capabilities without being observed. Our monitoring networks cover this entire sector of space." "Apparently not as well as we thought," replied Science Counselor Yathara, her insect-like features showing concern. "The humans have been studying us for over 50 years while remaining completely hidden. This suggests intelligence and planning capabilities we have never encountered." Admiral Kethmore appeared on the main communication screen, transmitting from his flagship near Earth. His normally confident demeanor was replaced by obvious tension. The veteran officer had seen his fair share of battles, but nothing had prepared him for this encounter. "High Counselor," Kethmore reported, "I must emphasize that the human vessel destroyed one of our frigates with a single shot from an undetectable weapon. Our sensors recorded no energy discharge, no projectile, no conventional weapon signature of any kind. The ship simply ceased to exist." Strategic Planning Officer Tai Jin reviewed the technical data flowing in from the fleet. His species, the Cerebral Collective, were known for their analytical abilities. What he saw in the data disturbed him greatly. "The humans appear to possess technology based on quantum manipulation," Taejin reported. "Their weapons operate outside conventional physics as we understand them. Their sensors can penetrate our stealth systems and defensive screens as if they were transparent. Most concerning, they demonstrated the ability to project disruptive fields that neutralized our weapons from a distance." Economic Counselor Velnara, representing the Trade Federation, raised a different concern. "If the humans possess such advanced technology, what does this mean for our expansion plans?" This sector was designated for Council development. Multiple worlds were scheduled for integration over the next century. High Counselor Zarthek studied the star maps showing human territory. Earth's solar system was positioned strategically along several major trade routes. If humanity claimed a larger sphere of influence, it could disrupt Council expansion for decades. "What are the humans demanding?" Zarthek asked. Admiral Kethmore consulted his notes. Their captain, Dae-hyun, states that humanity seeks peaceful coexistence, but will not accept subordinate status. They want to be recognized as equals and granted an independent sphere of influence. The chamber erupted in discussion. Never in Council history had a newly contacted species demanded equal status. The very concept challenged the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. "Equals," military advisor Korthvik growled. The Council has maintained order for over 1,000 years. We cannot simply grant equal status to every species that builds a large ship. This is not just a large ship, Science Counselor Yathara pointed out. The humans have demonstrated technological superiority in multiple areas. We may not have a choice in this matter. Back in the Sol system, Captain Dae-hyun was holding his own briefing with senior staff aboard the Titan's Wrath. The human command crew had been monitoring Council communications and analyzing their responses to the demonstration. The Council leadership is meeting on Nexus Prime, Intelligence Director Hai-wan reported. Our deep space monitoring stations are picking up increased military communications throughout Council space. They appear to be preparing for possible conflict. Chief Science Officer Minji reviewed her latest analysis of the Council fleet. Captain, I have been studying their vessel configurations. Based on observable technology, I estimate that our current fleet could defeat approximately 50 Council ships of equivalent size without significant losses. Engineering Chief Soo-jin nodded in agreement. Their fusion reactors and plasma weapons are functional but outdated. Our quantum-based systems provide overwhelming advantages in both offensive and defensive capabilities. Captain Dae-hyun listened to these assessments while watching the Council ships maintain their defensive positions around his vessel. He understood their fear. Humanity had spent 50 years developing technology specifically designed to counter Council capabilities. The result was a level of superiority that made conventional warfare impossible. Sir, Communications Officer Boram announced, we are receiving a transmission from Admiral Kethmore. He states that Council leadership requires a more detailed demonstration of human capabilities before formal negotiations can begin. Dae-hyun frowned. The Council was asking for additional proof of human strength. This could be a reasonable request for better understanding, or it could be an attempt to gather intelligence about human weaknesses. What kind of demonstration are they requesting? They want to observe human defensive capabilities against a simulated attack. They propose to conduct weapons tests against our shields and armor to better understand our technology. The request was both reasonable and dangerous. Allowing the Council to test their weapons against human defenses would provide valuable intelligence to both sides, but it would also reveal the true extent of human superiority, which might drive the Council to desperate measures. Tactical Officer Jin Woo analyzed the proposal from a military perspective. Captain, their weapons cannot penetrate our shields or damage our hull armor. A full demonstration would show them that their entire fleet combined could not seriously threaten this ship. That might cause panic, Intelligence Director Hai-wan warned. If they realize their military forces are completely ineffective against human technology, they might attempt to call in reinforcements from across Council space. Captain Dae-hyun considered the options. Complete demonstration would end any possibility of Council aggression, but it might also drive them to unite all their forces for a desperate attack. Limited demonstration might leave them with false hope and lead to future conflicts. Approved, he decided. We will allow them to conduct weapons tests against our defensive systems, but we will also provide them with detailed analysis of what they observe. I want them to understand exactly what they are seeing. Admiral Kethmore was surprised when the human captain agreed to the weapons testing. Most species would have refused such a request, viewing it as potential intelligence gathering. The human willingness to demonstrate their capabilities suggested either supreme confidence or elaborate deception. Captain Dae-hyun, the Admiral said during their communication, we appreciate your willingness to participate in this demonstration. It will help our leadership better understand the situation. Admiral, before we begin, I want to clarify something, Dae-hyun replied. This demonstration will show you the defensive capabilities of a single human vessel. It does not represent the full extent of human military technology. The statement sent chills through the Council bridge crew. If this massive warship was not representative of humanity's best technology, what other capabilities did they possess? The weapons test began with the Council fleet's smallest weapons. Laser batteries and particle beam weapons struck the Titan's Wrath shields with energies that could melt through asteroid metal. The human shields absorbed the energy without any visible effect. No shield fluctuation detected, Sensor Specialist Click Tar reported. The human defensive fields are absorbing our weapon energy completely. The test escalated to plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. These weapons could destroy mountains and crack planetary crusts. Against the human shields, they created brief flashes of light before their energy was harmlessly dispersed. "Impossible," whispered Tactical Officer Nevron. "Those quantum torpedoes carry enough energy to level a city. The human shields are not even fluctuating." Admiral Kethmore ordered the use of their most powerful weapons. The main plasma cannon of his flagship charged to full power. This weapon could punch through the shields of any Council vessel and destroy it with a single shot. The massive energy beam struck the Titan's wrath with the force of a small star. For a moment, the space around the human ship glowed with released energy. Then the light faded, revealing the human vessel completely undamaged. "Shield integrity at 99.7%, Chief Science Officer Min-ji reported to Captain Dae-hyun. "The Council's most powerful weapon reduced our shields by less than 1%. On the Council ships, the silence was deafening. Their most advanced weapons, developed over centuries of warfare, had failed to cause meaningful damage to human defenses. The technological gap was not just significant, it was overwhelming. "Admiral," Communications Officer Theknar said quietly, "the humans are transmitting detailed analysis of our weapons testing. They are." The Great Chamber on Nexus Prime had never seen such chaos. Representatives from dozens of Council species argued loudly as reports continued flowing in from the Sol system. The humans had not just demonstrated superior technology, they had revealed capabilities that challenged everything the Council thought they knew about galactic civilization. High Counselor Zarthek called for order repeatedly, but the chamber remained in uproar. Fear was driving rational beings to make irrational statements. Some demanded immediate mobilization of all Council fleets. Others suggested complete withdrawal from human space. A few extremist voices even proposed desperate measures that Zarthek refused to consider. "Silence." The High Counselor's voice boomed through the chamber's amplification systems. Slowly, the arguing subsided. "We will address this crisis with reason and careful planning, not panic." Military Advisor Korthvik stood to address the assembly. His massive frame dominated the speaker's platform as he displayed tactical analyses on the chamber's main screens. "Fellow counselors, we must face reality. The humans possess technology that makes our military forces obsolete. A single human vessel defeated our weapons testing without effort. Their fleet of 18 similar ships could theoretically challenge our entire military." Science Counselor Yathara's insect-like features showed deep concern as she added her analysis. "The human technology appears to be based on quantum field manipulation that we do not understand. Our science divisions estimate it would take us 50 to 100 years to develop similar capabilities, assuming we could duplicate their research." Economic Counselor Velnara presented data about the broader implications. "The humans control strategic positions along 3 major trade routes. If they expand their sphere of influence as Captain Dae-hyun suggested, they could disrupt commerce throughout this sector of space." Strategic Planning Officer Taijin had been analyzing human intelligence capabilities. His report was perhaps the most disturbing of all. "The humans have been observing us for over 50 years without being detected. They know our languages, our technology, our military capabilities, and our political structures. Meanwhile, we know almost nothing about them. This intelligence imbalance gives them enormous advantages in any negotiations." High Counselor Zarthek studied the reports while considering options. Every analysis pointed to the same conclusion. The Council was facing a power that exceeded their capabilities in every measurable way. "What are the humans' stated intentions?" he asked. Admiral Kethmore's voice came through the communication system from the Sol system. "High Counselor Captain Dae-hyun has been consistent in stating that humanity seeks peaceful coexistence, but he also made it clear that they will not accept subordinate status and will defend themselves against any aggression." "Have they made any territorial demands?" "Not specific demands, but they have indicated they expect recognition of an expanded human sphere of influence. They have not defined the exact boundaries of this sphere." The implications were staggering. The humans could potentially claim dozens of star systems that the Council had planned to integrate. Worse, the Council had no way to prevent such claims if humanity decided to enforce them. In the Sol system, Captain Dae-hyun was receiving updates. From across human space, the first contact protocols had been activated throughout the Terran Defense Network. Every human colony, research station, and military base was now on alert and ready to respond to potential threats. Captain, Intelligence Director Haiwan, reported, "Our monitoring stations are detecting massive increases in Council military communications. They appear to be mobilizing additional fleets from across their territory." Communications Officer Boram confirmed the intelligence reports. "Sir, we are intercepting communications from over 40 Council worlds. They are discussing military options ranging from diplomatic pressure to full-scale warfare." Chief Science Officer Minji analyzed the military movements. Based on communication patterns, the Council is considering deploying their 2nd and 4th battle fleets to this sector. Combined with the 3rd diplomatic fleet already here, that would represent approximately 60 ships. Captain Dae-hyun considered these developments. The Council's fear was driving them toward military solutions that could only end in disaster for both sides. It was time to provide additional information that might encourage more reasonable approaches. Boram, open a channel to Admiral Kethmore. "I think it's time to share some additional facts about human defensive capabilities." Admiral Kethmore was surprised to receive another direct communication from the human captain. The Council leadership had been debating response strategies for hours without reaching any conclusions. Perhaps the humans had decided to make additional demands. "Admiral," Captain Dae-hyun said, "our monitoring stations indicate that the Council is considering military mobilization in response to our demonstration. I wanted to provide some additional information that might influence those discussions." The Admiral felt a chill at the casual mention of monitoring stations. The humans were intercepting Council communications across multiple star systems. Their intelligence network was even more extensive than anyone had realized. "What information do you wish to share, Captain?" "The Sol system contains more than just the Titan's wrath," Dae-hyun explained. "We maintain a comprehensive defensive network throughout human space. I thought your leadership might want to understand what they would face if they chose military action." The transmission included detailed sensor data showing human defensive installations throughout the solar system, orbital weapons platforms around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, hidden bases on dozens of moons and planetoids. Most shocking of all, massive defensive structures built inside asteroids that had been completely invisible to Council sensors. "Admiral," Sensor Specialist Kliktar said in a shaking voice, "the humans have built weapons platforms throughout their entire star system. I count over 300 major installations, plus countless smaller defensive positions." The scope of human preparations was overwhelming. They had not simply built one advanced warship. They had militarized their entire solar system with technology the Council could not detect or counter. "Captain Dae-hyun," Admiral Kethmore said carefully, "this represents a massive military buildup. How long have these installations been in place?" "Construction began 47 years ago," Dae-hyun replied. "We wanted to be properly prepared when formal contact with the Council eventually occurred. The timeline was devastating to Council assumptions. The humans had been building advanced military installations for nearly 50 years, all while remaining completely hidden from Council observation. It suggested planning and resource management capabilities that exceeded anything the Council had achieved. On Nexus Prime, the new intelligence caused fresh panic among Council leadership. High Counselor Zarthek called for emergency sessions as military advisors tried to assess the scope of human defensive capabilities. "The humans have essentially turned their entire star system into a fortress," military advisor Korthvik reported. "Our analysts estimate that a successful assault would require the majority of our military forces, and casualties would be catastrophic." Science Counselor Yathara was studying the technical specifications of human installations. Many of these defensive platforms use the same quantum technology we observed on their warship. They appear to be capable of projecting defensive fields and offensive weapons across interplanetary distances. The implications were clear. Any military attack on human space would face not just their fleet of advanced warships, but hundreds, of defensive installations using technology the Council could not counter. Strategic Planning Officer Tai Jin presented his analysis of human expansion capabilities. If the humans can build such installations in their home system, they can presumably build similar defenses around any worlds they choose to claim. This makes territorial expansion by the Council impossible in any region the humans decide to control. Economic Counselor Velnara raised concerns about long-term implications. If humanity continues advancing at their current rate, they could achieve technological superiority over the Council in every field within a few decades. We may be witnessing the emergence of a new dominant power in galactic civilization. Back in the Sol system, Captain Daehyun was monitoring Council reactions to his revelations. The aliens were clearly struggling to understand how humanity had achieved such capabilities without being detected. "Sir," Engineering Chief Sujin reported, "the Council ships are conducting detailed scans of our solar system. They are trying to map our defensive installations." "Let them scan," Daehyun replied. "They might as well understand what they are dealing with." The scanning operation took several hours. When it was complete, the Council officers had identified over 800 human installations throughout the solar system. The defensive network was far more extensive than anyone had imagined. "Captain," Tactical Officer Jinwoo said, "the aliens are requesting information about human expansion plans. They want to know which star systems humanity intends to claim." Captain Daehyun had been expecting this question. The Council needed to understand the scope of human territorial ambitions to plan their own future expansion. "Admiral Kethmore," he said during their next communique, 3 months after the first encounter, the neutral space station Harmony's rest in the Alpha Centauri system hosted the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. The station had been built specifically for these negotiations, using both human and Council technology to create a truly neutral environment. Captain Daehyun arrived aboard a sleek human diplomatic vessel that impressed even the experienced Council representatives. The ship demonstrated the same advanced technology as the Titan's Wrath, but was clearly designed for peaceful purposes. Its elegant lines and sophisticated sensor arrays spoke of a civilization that valued both beauty and function. With him came a carefully selected team of human representatives. Ambassador Sang-hee carried credentials from all major human governments. Her calm demeanor and perfect command of multiple Council languages immediately impressed the alien diplomats. Trade. Coordinator Jun-ho brought detailed proposals for economic cooperation between humanity and Council worlds. Cultural liaison. Nara had spent years studying Council societies and was prepared to address cultural differences that might complicate negotiations. The Council delegation was equally impressive. High Counselor Zarthek attended personally, marking the importance of these discussions. Military Advisor Korthvik represented Council defense interests. Science Counselor Yathara brought teams of researchers eager to understand human technology. Economic Counselor Velnara came with trade proposals that could reshape galactic commerce. Admiral Kethmore served as the primary liaison between the delegations. His experiences during first contact had given him unique insights into human capabilities and intentions. The Admiral had spent the past 3 months studying everything humanity had revealed about themselves, and he had developed a grudging respect for their strategic planning. The first formal session took place in the station's main conference chamber. The room was designed to accommodate the different environmental needs of multiple species. Atmospheric controls maintained comfortable conditions for both humans and the various Council races. "Welcome to this historic gathering," High Counselor Zarthek began. "We are here to establish the framework for peaceful coexistence between humanity and the Galactic Council." Ambassador Sang-hee responded with equal formality. "Humanity is honored to participate in these discussions. We come with peaceful intentions and hopes for mutually beneficial relationships." The opening pleasantries established the tone for negotiations that would reshape galactic politics. But beneath the diplomatic courtesy, both sides were carefully evaluating their opponents and planning strategies. Captain Daehyun observed the proceedings while staying alert for potential problems. Intelligence Director Hai Wan had briefed him on each Council representative, their political positions, and their likely negotiating strategies. The humans were as prepared for diplomacy as they had been for military contact. Perhaps we should begin with territorial questions, High Counselor Zarthek suggested. The Council needs to understand the scope of human expansion plans. Ambassador Sang He activated a holographic display showing human territorial claims. The map revealed an impressive sphere of influence that included dozens of star systems along major trade routes. Humanity currently controls these 15 systems, she explained. We have established permanent colonies on 23 worlds and research facilities in 41 additional systems. We are prepared to recognize Council authority in all other regions of space. The offer was more generous than the Council had expected. Human territorial claims, while extensive, left the majority of Council space under existing authority. It suggested that humanity was indeed interested in coexistence rather than conquest. Trade Coordinator Junho presented economic proposals that caught the Council delegation's attention. Humanity is prepared to offer limited technology sharing in exchange for access to Council trade networks. We believe both civilizations could benefit from expanded commerce. The mention of technology sharing caused excitement among the Council representatives. Access to human quantum technology could advance Council science by decades, but they also understood that humanity would carefully control what technologies they shared. Science Counselor Yathara leaned forward with interest. What technologies would humanity be willing to share? Selected applications of quantum field theory, Junho replied. Improved energy generation methods, advanced material science, medical technologies that could benefit Council species. The offer was substantial, but clearly limited. The humans were willing to share beneficial technologies while keeping their most advanced military applications secret. It was exactly what the Council would have done in the same situation. Military. Advisor Korthvik raised security concerns. The Council requires assurance that human expansion will not threaten existing Council territories or client species. Captain Daehyun addressed this concern directly. Humanity has no interest in conquering Council worlds or disrupting existing political relationships. We seek recognition of our territorial claims and peaceful coexistence. But what about future expansion? Korthvik pressed. Human population growth and technological advancement suggest continued territorial requirements. Ambassador Sang He had prepared for this question. Humanity's expansion plans are focused on uninhabited systems and worlds unsuitable for current Council species. We have identified approximately 200 systems that meet our colonization requirements without conflicting with Council interests. The answer revealed sophisticated planning that took Council needs into account. The humans had clearly spent years analyzing galactic political structures and identifying opportunities for expansion that would not create conflicts. Cultural Liaison Nara presented proposals for cultural exchange programs. Humanity believes that understanding between our civilizations will prevent misunderstandings that could lead to conflicts. We propose student exchange programs, joint research projects, and cultural festivals. The cultural proposals were well received by Council representatives who recognized the value of building personal relationships between their species. Understanding human motivations and thinking patterns would help the Council adapt to the new galactic balance. High Counselor Zarthek raised the most fundamental question. The Council has maintained galactic order for over 1,000 years. How does humanity see their role in existing galactic governance structures? The question went to the heart of the political changes that human emergence had created. The Council had always been the dominant power in galactic politics. Now they faced a civilization that was clearly their equal or superior. Ambassador Sang He addressed the question carefully. Humanity respects the Council's achievements in maintaining galactic peace and prosperity. We do not seek to disrupt existing governance structures. However, we expect recognition as an independent power with equal standing in galactic politics. The statement was diplomatic but firm. Humanity would not join the Council as a subordinate member. They demanded recognition as equals with their own sphere of influence and political authority. Would humanity be willing to participate in joint security operations? Military Advisor Korthvik asked. The galaxy faces external threats that require coordinated responses. Captain Dae-hyun exchanged glances with Ambassador Sang-hee before responding. Humanity is prepared to participate in mutual defense agreements against external threats. We believe cooperation between our military forces could benefit both civilizations. The offer of military cooperation was significant. It suggested that humanity saw the Council as potential allies rather than competitors. But it also implied that humanity expected equal partnership in any joint operations. Science Counselor Ythera raised technical questions about human technology. The quantum field applications we have observed appear to operate outside conventional physics. Would humanity be willing to share theoretical frameworks? Selected theoretical knowledge could be included in technology sharing agreements, Jun-ho replied. However, some applications must remain restricted for security reasons. The answer was honest and expected. No civilization would share their most advanced military technologies with potential competitors. The fact that humanity was willing to share any theoretical knowledge was more generous than most species would be. Economic Counselor Velnara presented trade proposals that could benefit both civilizations. The Council controls extensive trade networks that could provide markets for human goods. In exchange, human-controlled systems could provide access to resources and strategic positions. The trade discussions revealed the practical benefits of cooperation. Human territory included strategic locations that could improve Council trade efficiency. Council markets could absorb human products and provide access to exotic materials from across the galaxy. As negotiations continued over several days, patterns emerged that defined the new relationship. Humanity would be recognized as an equal power with extensive territorial rights. The Council would maintain authority over existing territories while gaining access to human technology and strategic cooperation. The breakthrough came when Captain Dae-hyun made an unexpected revelation. Admiral Kethmore asked earlier about the scope of human military capabilities. I mentioned that the Titan's Wrath is scheduled for decommissioning.